My stepmother cheated on my father and I found out. I tried to persuade her to stop, but she wanted to silence me with money. Your dad has always wanted a son. He doesn't care about you at all. You won't get a single penny of his inheritance. Wake up. You're better off taking this money and leaving early. When I refused, she cruelly got rid of the child in her womb. She told my dad that I pushed her down the stairs. I know your daughter hates me, but I never thought she'd even spare an unborn child. My poor baby. Listening to his beloved wife's pitiful voice, and looking at the miscarried baby boy, my dad went insane. In a rage, he dragged me to my own mother's grave. In front of my mom, he beat me half to death and buried me next to my mother's tomb. Ava, your heart is so cruel. How could I have given birth to a daughter like you? I'm going to avenge my unborn son. As soon as I walked in the door, my dad, Victor, kicked me. Then, he pulled out his belt and began to beat me fiercely. What kind of heart do you have? Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Stella is pregnant. How could you be so heartless as to push her down the stairs? She had a miscarriage. And it was a boy. Are you happy now? Aren't you afraid that Stella's child would inherit my wealth? I'll tell you now. You won't get a single penny of my money. I weakly defended myself. Dad, I didn't. He grabbed my neck tightly. He was so strong that I couldn't break free. Afterward, Victor put me in a burlap sack and threw me into the trunk of the car. Stella was originally my best friend. After my mother died, she often came to comfort me. Later, she had more and more contact with Victor and eventually became my stepmother. Next week, she was supposed to have her wedding with my dad. But just then, I caught her in the act of meeting with her lover. It turned out that she was only with my dad for his money. In secret, she had been meeting with her ex-boyfriend. At that time, she knelt down, big belly and all, and begged me. She even wanted to give me $1 million to make sure I didn't tell Victor about this. I didn't want her money. I just told her to stop messing around with other men. I knew Victor liked Stella, and I didn't want to make a big scene. Stella did agree with me at the time, but the terrible thing was that she got rid of the baby in her womb herself that night and falsely accused me of causing her miscarriage. My dad was indeed enraged. The car sped along the road. Finally, when it stopped, I was thrown heavily onto the muddy ground. The first thing I saw when I saw the light of day again was my mother's tombstone. My mother died of complications during childbirth a year ago. She had tried her best to give my dad another son. At this moment, my dad grabbed my hair and slammed me onto my mother's grave. Grace, look at the good daughter you raised. For money, to compete with her own brother for the family fortune. She is truly unscrupulous. At this moment, blood was coming from my eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. My internal organs were almost torn apart. I sobbed, Dad, it's not like that. I was just... My dad was in a killing frenzy at this point, and he couldn't hear anything. He picked up a thick branch from the side and beat me violently again. Finally, he dug a huge pit next to my mother's tomb and threw me, half dead, into it. In the pit, I reached out to Victor, begging him not to kill me. He picked up a shovel and, while throwing dirt into the pit, didn't forget to curse me. A life for a life. I want to avenge my son. This is all what you deserve. I should have listened to the fortune teller in the first place and killed you off long ago, so I would have had a son already. You were born from me, and today you will return your life to me. I was buried in the heavy dirt and gradually lost the ability to move. My nose and mouth were full of mud. I tried to make a final sound, hoping to soften his heart, but through the dirt, I could still hear his curses. Then he stomped on me hard a few times, making sure I couldn't climb out before turning and leaving. Several thunderclaps flashed. It must be raining outside. Rainwater poured into my mouth and nose through the cracks in the soil. At that moment, I was desperate. As I was on the verge of death, I heard some voices besides the sound of the heavy rain. It turned out that a villager had just happened to pass by when Victor buried me. He hid in the woods and witnessed my miserable state at the time. After confirming that my father had left, he called some villagers to come and save me. With their help, I crawled out of the mud. I glanced back at my mother's tombstone. Washed by the heavy rain, it seemed like she was crying too. The villagers advised me to call the police, but apart from the witnessing villagers, I had no evidence. And with my father's capabilities, he would definitely hire the best lawyers. Not only would I suffer, but the villagers would also be implicated. So, after recuperating at a villager's house for 2 days, I stumbled and staggered to my grandmother's house in the suburbs. When I was little, I lived here for a while. Although my grandmother wasn't very kind to me, she was my only relative in this world besides Victor. So, she was the only one I could turn to now. No one was home, so I climbed over the low wall in the front yard. I was exhausted and hungry, so I went into the kitchen and grabbed whatever I could find and stuffed it into my mouth. As I was eating, I heard some noises outside. I looked and saw that it was my father and grandmother who had come in. I had just hidden in the closet when I heard the door open. I heard my grandmother say, "It's good she's dead. I told you long ago, that dead girl is a jinx. As long as she's around, you'll never have a son in this life. She should have died a long time ago. We should have strangled that dead girl as soon as Grace gave birth to her. If Grace hadn't always protected that dead girl, things wouldn't be the way they are now." My grandmother's words poured over me like a bucket of cold water. I've always known that my father favored sons over daughters, but at least I thought my grandmother wouldn't dislike me so much. After all, she's a woman herself. But hearing these words come out of her mouth really felt like a bucket of cold water being poured over me. So my life meant nothing to them. In my own grandmother's heart, I should have died long ago. Victor also spoke. "Mom, you're absolutely right. The fortune teller said she would never have a younger brother in this life. That kind of destiny will doom me to not having a son for the rest of my life. That boy Grace was carrying. He was already 8 months along and still died in the womb, killed by Ava. Now she's even harmed Stella's son. She's not just a jinx, she's a disaster." My mother was constantly resented by my father for giving birth to a daughter, me in her first pregnancy. For many years after that, my mother worked very hard to have a son for my father. But she got pregnant many times, and each time she miscarried early. Last time, she braved the risks of being 48 years old and got pregnant again. And that child stayed in her womb for 8 months. My mother was very happy at the time, and she took my hand and said, "Ava, Mom can finally give you a younger brother." During that time, Victor was also particularly gentle to my mother, and even his attitude towards me became more amiable. But fate didn't grant her wish. My mother finally had a massive hemorrhage a few days later, and both the boy and herself died, 1 corpse and 2 lives. It was from that day on that my father never gave me a good look again. As I was reminiscing, I suddenly heard Victor say again, "Mom, this is actually your fault. Grace had so many pregnancies before, and every time a B-scan showed that it was a daughter, you insisted on her getting rid of it. She got rid of so many children before, and after that her uterus was already useless. You blame me." My grandmother's voice became sharp. "Who did I do all this for, if not for your Fan family? You are a 5th-generation single heir. If the family line ends with you, then you and I are sinners of the Fan family. Besides, you now have hundreds of millions in assets. If you can't have a son, won't all that money go to outsiders in the future? Can you die in peace?" My grandmother was very strong, and Victor had no choice but to lower his head and remain silent. Seeing that her son was no longer speaking, my grandmother snorted again. "Now that the jinx is dead, that's a good thing. You will definitely have a son in the future. Stella is still young. Let her take good care of herself and strive to give birth to a big fat boy next year." Victor quickly responded with several ahas. Hiding in the closet, my body was constantly trembling. Compared to the physical pain I had suffered earlier, the tearing pain in my heart now made it even harder for me to breathe. I never knew my mother had endured so much suffering. If she hadn't gotten rid of so many children before, draining her body, she wouldn't have miscarried. Recalling the suffering my mother endured before she died, my body trembled constantly. My mother, she didn't have to die. She could have enjoyed family happiness and lived the rest of her life happily. It was Victor and his son who harmed her. "Mom, I must avenge you. I will personally kill your murderer. I will make everyone who has hurt me and my mother pay the price." Victor and Stella's wedding was held at the largest hilltop hotel in the area. My father's business had been doing well these years, so he was considered somewhat successful. Therefore, many guests came to his wedding. At the beginning of the wedding, Victor looked refreshed. and Stella next to him wore an expensive wedding dress, her face full of happiness. In the officiant's enthusiastic blessings, the wedding gradually reached its climax. Just as the last ring exchange ceremony was about to begin, I suddenly appeared. Under the spotlight, I walked onto the stage, tears welling up in my eyes. The moment Victor saw me, his face showed disbelief with a hint of panic. After all, just a week ago, he had personally buried me in a pit. And now, I was appearing alive in front of him, which was enough to make even someone as bold as him feel extremely frightened. Taking the microphone from the officiant, I said to the people present, "Hello everyone, I am Victor's daughter, Ava. Thank you all very much for coming to attend my father and Stella's wedding today." As I spoke, I choked up a bit and pretended to wipe away my tears. After my mother passed away, my father had a very hard time. Whenever I saw his painful appearance, I, as his daughter, felt very uncomfortable. Now he has finally found happiness again, and I am truly happy for him. While saying this, I glanced at my grandmother sitting at the main guest table. My appearance really startled her. At this moment, she was clutching her chest, gasping for breath, and looking at me with a terrified expression. The people around her thought she was too excited, so they comforted her. "Look how sensible your granddaughter is. This is a blessing for you. From now on, you don't have to worry about anything." I smiled slightly and turned to walk towards my father. Stella couldn't restrain herself any longer. She asked my father in a low voice, somewhat angrily, "Didn't you say you had already avenged our son? Why is she appearing again now? Were you lying to me before?" "Shut up." Victor's face was very ugly, but he tried to remain calm. After looking me up and down, he asked me in a voice that only he and I could hear, "Why are you still alive?" I just smiled. "Of course I'm alive to attend your wedding." He continued to say angrily in a very low voice, "I warn you, no matter what your purpose is, get out of my wedding now." I didn't say anything and hugged him, coldly saying in his ear, "Victor, why are you in such a hurry? I came all the way here, the show has just begun." After letting go of Victor, I looked at Stella with burning eyes. This must be God's favor for me, allowing my best friend Stella to marry my dearest father. From now on we are a family. I thank you on behalf of my mother. I hope you have a happy marriage for 100 years, and by the way, it's best to give me a younger brother soon. My words, which were both affectionate and slightly playful and teasing, made the guests laugh. On the stage, the three of us had three different moods in our hearts. The people below the stage were moved to tears. Seeing that the time was ripe, I smiled and looked at everyone. Today is my father's big day, and I have prepared a big gift for the newlyweds. As I said that, I looked at the officiant and nodded to him. The officiant understood, and pressed the remote control for the large screen on the stage. Before the wedding started, I had secretly contacted the officiant. I stuffed a red envelope into his hands, asking him to help me play a video later. That is my growing up experience from childhood to adulthood. I specially edited it out to play at my father's wedding, just to thank him for his upbringing and give him a surprise. Soon, the video started playing on the large screen behind the stage. For the first few dozen seconds, it was indeed just a compilation of some photos and videos of my growing up process. When I saw my mother holding me, I really shed tears. "Mom, don't worry. Your daughter is about to avenge you." After a few dozen seconds, the style of the video suddenly changed, turning into a hotel room. In the video, Stella and another man were lying in bed talking. "Are you sure our affair hasn't been exposed?" "Don't worry, I've already had Victor kill Ava. That old fool. He actually believed it was Ava who pushed me down the stairs and caused the miscarriage. He values his son above everything. Now that his son is gone, he'll do anything. Haha, you're something else. Sigh, what a pity for our son. He became a sacrifice before he was even born." "It's okay. As long as you marry Victor, we'll find a way to kill him. When that happens, his money will be ours. We can have as many sons as we want." The scene played out, and the entire audience was in an uproar. They all turned their gaze towards the bride and groom on the stage. So this is a complete and utter scam. This woman is so vicious. I knew it. How could a woman in her 20s fall for an old man in his 50s? It's good to have a daughter. At a critical moment, she can expose her stepmother's true colors. At this moment, I had already wisely stepped aside. After leaving Grandma's house, I started planning. I contacted a private investigator and gave him a sum of money to monitor Stella's every move. Sure enough, Stella, who had just lost her child, disregarded her weakened body and impatiently went to find her lover again. As I requested, the detective recorded the entire video. Although the video wasn't finished playing, Victor was already completely enraged. "Stella, how dare you? You actually dared to cuckold me." Seeing Victor approaching step by step, Stella calmed down. She actually picked up the microphone and said, "Victor, do you really believe Ava's words?" The video is out. What excuses can you possibly make?" Stella coldly smiled. "If I really cuckolded you, you can kill me, but before you kill me, can you give me a chance to explain?" "Fine, speak. If you can't explain it, I'll personally butcher you." Seeing Victor stop, Stella quickly walked to the MC, handed him something, and whispered a few words. The MC then took the item and left. The next few minutes passed slowly. Victor and all the guests watched everything that was happening. Among those people, there were several big streamers with millions of followers, and they even started live streaming with their phones. Daughter disrupts her father's wedding. What exactly happened in the middle? Is it the decline of morality, or the distortion of human nature? Fellow fans, you can follow us and find out. TSK. Today's livestream is very exciting. Be sure to give us a follow. As they were speaking, another video started playing on the screen. The content was also of a man and a woman lying in bed chatting. The shooting angle and scene were very similar to the previous video. But the man and woman were Victor and his female secretary. Seeing this scene, there was another exclamation from the audience. What's going on? It seems this Victor isn't a good person either. Someone who's engaged, getting involved with their female secretary, that's just too shameless. She's even pregnant with his child, and he's doing this kind of thing, so disgusting. On the other side, Victor looked completely incredulous. He looked at Stella. What is this? Where did you get this? This is nonsense. I never. Saying that, he pointed at the big screen and said loudly, I have absolutely never betrayed Stella. Where did this video come from? This is all fake. Someone is deliberately trying to frame me. Hearing Victor's words, Stella started crying. Victor, you know this video is fake, so why did you believe the previous video was real? I originally thought our love was unbreakable, but now I see, I was still wrong. Victor stared at Stella. Don't cry, tell me, what exactly is going on? Stella choked up for a while before wiping away her tears. Victor, someone mailed this to me before the wedding. That person asked me for $1 million, saying that if I didn't give it, they would play it at our wedding and embarrass you. I was shocked when I saw it, but I never believed it was something you would do. I know this is all AI deepfake. This technology is very advanced now. Anyone's face can be directly swapped in. I just didn't expect that these people couldn't swindle my money, so they got angry and made up that fake video earlier to harm me. And what makes me the saddest is that Victor, you actually believed it. Stella was indeed very cunning. Her tearful appeal won a lot of sympathy from the audience. I said a long time ago, this is AI deepfake. Even a pig's features can be put on a person's face. It's just a one-click thing. How could Victor's daughter be so shameless, making up something out of nothing for her father like this? What benefit could she possibly get? Her good gray me bestie suddenly became her stepmother. She probably can't get over that. You can't do things like this though. Really boring. Victor was indeed fooled. He stepped forward and hugged Stella. I'm sorry, Stella, it's all my fault. I was too impulsive. I shouldn't have treated you like that just now. I shouldn't have doubted you. As he spoke, he glared at me. It was too kind of me to her, which caused today's situation. Don't worry, I will definitely give you justice. At the same time, Stella, in Victor's arms, had a triumphant look in her crying eyes that only I could see. I knew very well that the private investigator I hired had betrayed me. Stella must have discovered that she was being followed, and then used it to her advantage. When Stella met my gaze, she leaned against Victor's arms and continued, Victor, when we first started dating, Ava was always interfering. She said a lot of bad things about you to me, and when she couldn't stop us from being together, she targeted our child. You saw it with your own eyes, it was a boy. Speaking to me loudly, she said, Ava, I know you don't want me to be your stepmother, but this is love. I can't help it. I can't control my feelings for your dad. I originally wanted to get along with you harmoniously. I thought that with time you would recognize me, accept me. Who knew? Who knew you would actually? As she spoke, she suddenly burst into tears again. It's enough for you to hate me. Why did you hurt my son? He was so young when you pushed me downstairs. Didn't you have any sympathy at all? Stella's performance pushed the emotions of the audience to another climax. I get it, it's a property dispute after all. So hateful, even if you hate your best friend. You can't treat your own brother like this. Without her brother, wouldn't she become the sole heir to the property? It's all about the money. At this time Grandma, who had been sitting under the stage, also came up. She walked a few steps to my side and slapped me heavily in the face. Bitch. Shameless thing. What has our fan family done to wrong you? On such an important day as your father's wedding, you dare to come and make trouble, and bring these messy things to frame your father and my daughter-in-law. You are simply heartless. Then, she said loudly to the people around, don't be fooled by her. She is extremely vicious inside, and to prevent others from competing with her for the inheritance, she wouldn't even let go of an unborn child. If it wasn't for her, Stella wouldn't have had a miscarriage. Pity my grandson who was only a few months old, just gone like that. As she spoke, Grandma began to wipe her tears. Stella quickly stepped forward to comfort her mother-in-law. Mom, don't be sad. Actually, it's all my fault. If I could have protected myself better, it wouldn't have happened. As she spoke, she choked up. Grandma hugged her tightly. My poor daughter-in-law, you are so understanding. Victor is so lucky to marry you. Actually, Mom would rather be the one suffering. If I could, I would trade my life for my poor little grandson. Mom, don't say that. The more you say that, the more upset I feel. The two women cried in each other's arms on the stage. Such a melodramatic scene made the people around them unable to help but shed tears. Those few big streamers seized this huge traffic, not letting go of any details. After all this, it's a big drama of inheritance struggle. To say that the girls nowadays are really meticulous, they can do anything for their old father's little money. And she also caused the bride to have a miscarriage, simply too bad. The crying of my mother and new wife brought Victor's hatred for me to the extreme. Looking at his bloodshot eyes, I suddenly remembered the scene of him burying me that day. My body couldn't help but tremble. Ava, what do you have to say now? To ruin our wedding, you really went to great lengths, but even God won't help you. It saw through your tricks and made you look ugly. As he spoke, he pointed to the guests present and said, Since you are here today, that's just as well. I will announce to everyone in front of everyone that Victor and I will sever our father-daughter relationship. Moreover, I will sue you for killing my son, you murderer. You will spend the rest of your life in prison to atone for my son. I took a deep breath. Looking at the situation at the scene, it was indeed very chaotic. However, these occurrences were all something I had anticipated long ago, because I had noticed the private investigator's betrayal a long time ago. Therefore, I came prepared. I took out a piece of printed paper and handed it to Victor. These are Stella's room registration records with her lover behind your back. I asked a friend to get these from the police station. No one can fake them. Look carefully, Stella's and another man's ID card numbers are on it. Hearing this, Stella pushed away Grandma and rushed towards me. She originally wanted to snatch the paper from my hand, but Victor pushed her away with a palm. After glancing at it, Victor's face became very ugly. It showed that almost every week, Stella would go to an hourly hotel with that man 3 to 4 times, rain or shine. Seeing these data, Victor's body trembled violently, and he looked at Stella. How do you explain this? At this moment, Stella's body was shaking like a sieve, uncontrollably. Victor, this is not me. Someone must be trying to frame me. As she spoke, she suddenly looked at me again. Ava, you are simply without a bottom line. Your conscience is really bad. Saying that, she rolled her eyes. Victor, she must have stolen my ID card. She used my ID to book those rooms. She's been plotting this all along. She's framing me. Framing you. I chuckled twice. You really won't give up until you're staring into the abyss. As I said that, I took out my phone and turned on the screen mirroring function. Soon, Another video appeared on the screen. This was a surveillance video from the street, obtained from the police. The video showed Stella entering hotels hand in hand with different men multiple times. The timestamps on the video perfectly matched the dates and times of Stella and her lover's hotel stays that Victor had. I said to Victor, "This stuff can't be faked. If you still don't believe it, you can retrieve the data from the police yourself." The evidence was irrefutable. No matter how Stella tried to deny it, it was useless. Seeing Victor approaching her again, Stella felt that the situation was bad and tried to escape. But Victor stood in front of Stella like a mountain. His eyes looked like they were about to burst into flames. "You bitch! You've completely disgraced me. Tell me the truth. Whose child is it? If you dare lie to me, I'll fucking kill you." Before Stella could speak, I stepped forward. I put my mouth close to Victor's ear. "I remember when the baby was 3 months old. Didn't she go to the hospital for amniocentesis? The data should still be at the hospital. Wouldn't it be clear if you checked?" Hearing my words, Stella lunged at me. She screamed, "Ava, I'm going to kill you." I dodged quickly, but I was still a step too slow. Her sharp nails scratched several bloody marks on my face. But I didn't care. After wiping away the blood, I continued to watch the spectacle. Stella couldn't escape. Victor had her neck in a death grip, and her body was suspended in the air. Stella cried for help to the people around her, but everyone was afraid of the red-eyed Victor, and no one dared to approach. So Stella could only say forcefully, "Victor, if you dare to kill me in front of so many people, you'll die too." Victor's face was flushed, and his mind was filled with hatred. I stood by and watched the scene. That day when Victor killed me, he was just as merciless. But now the person in his hands was Stella. Her neck was being squeezed tighter and tighter. Realizing she couldn't escape, Stella simply started to enrage Victor. "Victor, you're already so old. Why should I be completely devoted to you? Let me tell you the truth. I'm only after your money. As soon as we get married, I'll kill you." "You want to kill me? I'll kill you first." Seeing Stella's face turning purple and her breathing gradually weakening, the people around started screaming. Victor was completely blinded by rage. He pressed the almost unconscious Stella to the ground and randomly picked up the microphone that the MC had dropped. He then slammed it forcefully against Stella's head. Again and again, blood splattered everywhere. Stella initially had some faint screams, but then she stopped moving, completely helpless. The wedding scene was filled with screams. It was a ghastly sight. Stella was dead. Victor was taken away by the police on charges of intentional homicide. As he was leaving the scene, he seemed to suddenly realize something. He pointed at me and said viciously, "It's you, this is all your scheme. You wanted me to die?" I cried hysterically. "Dad, I was just trying to help you. I really didn't want Stella to deceive you. I didn't know your reaction would be so extreme, Dad. I know I was wrong." Victor knew that I was shedding crocodile tears, but there were witnesses all around him. He had no chance to turn things around. What awaited him was the judgment of the law. At the wedding scene, the grandmother, who had witnessed everything, cried and wailed. She pointed at me and was about to curse, but I stepped forward and hugged her tightly. "Grandma, Dad killed someone. Killing someone is punishable by death. Dad is definitely not going to survive. What are we going to do?" The grandmother tried to break free from me, but I was stronger. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, "Grandma, your family is about to die out. Once Victor dies, all the family property will be mine. Haha, wouldn't you say this backfired spectacularly?" Hearing my words, the grandmother couldn't catch her breath. I felt her twitch a few times, and then her body went limp. Everything was thrown into chaos. After a long time, someone reacted and called 120. When Grandma was sent to the hospital, her condition was critical. I tearfully pleaded with the doctor. "Please, I lost my mother, and now my father's a murderer. He's definitely not going to live. In this world, Grandma's my only family. No matter what it takes, even if it's the strongest medicine, you have to keep her alive, even if she's paralyzed. I'll take care of her for the rest of my life." My cries moved the doctors. They did everything they could to save Grandma's life. But as a result of the surgery, Grandma became hemiplegic. Even the simplest walk required assistance. Lying in bed, she pointed at me and sobbed, "Jinx. You're such a jinx. Why? Why did you have to make me like this? It's all your fault. I knew why she was angry. Even though my grandma was old, her love of beauty was no less than that of a young person. Even though she was over 70, she was always the star of the square dances and had complicated romantic entanglements with several old men. Seeing her like this now, those old men probably wouldn't pay her any attention anymore. So, living like this was more painful than taking her life. I endured her scolding and pitifully said, "Grandma, don't be like this. I know you're heartbroken, but I'm even more heartbroken. Dad killed someone, he's going to die sooner or later. Grandma, from now on, let's depend on each other. Where you are, there's a home." Pa. Grandma's mouth twisted, and saliva dripped from the corner of her mouth. "If it wasn't for you, Victor wouldn't have killed anyone. You're the murderer. I should have thrown you into the chamber pot and drowned you." Grandma's words were vicious, but I didn't say a word in response. At this moment, the nurses around couldn't help but speak up. "You old woman. How ungrateful can you be? If it weren't for her running around these past few days, you'd be dead already. Do you know how lucky you are to have such a good granddaughter?" Nowadays, many biological children refuse to let doctors rescue their parents when they hear they're going to be paralyzed, fearing they'll be a burden. We've seen it all before, let alone you're just a grandma. Stop being so ungrateful. Hearing these words, Grandma gritted her teeth but dared not say another word. After the nurse left, I smiled slightly and walked to her side. "Listen, I'm your only guardian now. If you listen to me, your days ahead will be a little more comfortable. If you dare to go against me, be careful, I'll make your life worse than death." Hearing my words, Grandma's face turned pale instantly. She knew very well that her life and death were now in my hands. I patted her shoulder. "I've hired a caregiver for you. She will take good care of you. You have a long life ahead of you. You should enjoy it slowly." Victor's murder was broadcast live by major streamers, and the video quickly spread everywhere. It became a hot topic online for those few days. The verdict of the case was almost without suspense. Victor was sentenced to death. Later in prison, he kept asking his lawyer to find me, hoping I could go to Stella's family and ask them to issue a letter of forgiveness, so he could avoid the death penalty. I pretended to go to Stella's family. My appearance of kneeling in front of them and pleading earnestly did attract a lot of sympathy. However, faced with the exorbitant compensation demanded by Stella's parents, I said I didn't have that much money, and that my father's house had long been mortgaged, and that the company was just an empty shell. In fact, Victor didn't have any money at all. Stella's parents probably felt cheated by Victor, so they simply refused to grant any forgiveness, and insisted on sentencing Victor to death. After Grandma was discharged from the hospital, she gradually lost her ability to speak due to excessive medication. I found her a mediocre nursing home, and paid 10 years' worth of fees in advance. I told the caregivers that I didn't have any other requests except to take good care of her, and keep her alive, for a long time. On the day Victor was executed, I went to the nursing home to see Grandma again. When I told her the news, even though Grandma had lost her ability to speak, her whole body was trembling nonstop. I knew that if she could still speak and move, she would curse me with the most vicious curses again. But now no one can hurt me anymore. After Victor died, Grandma and I became the heirs to all of his property. Because I was Grandma's guardian, I also controlled her share of the money. Sitting in Victor's office, I couldn't help but sigh. I specially returned to the place where Victor buried me in the past, found the villagers who had saved me, and to thank them, I decided to give them some money, but they refused to take it no matter what. So I opened several farms in their area. I didn't want any of the money I made, just considering it supporting the construction of the countryside. I often visit my mother's grave. Most of the time, I lean against her tombstone. Gently stroking the 3 words grace on it, I whispered, "Mom, I've avenged you. I miss you so much."